Welcome to Lunch with Biggie, a podcast about small business and creatives sharing their stories and inspiring you. My guest today is a Brevard-based chef behind the Bearded Chef Kitchen, where he is doing everything from elevated in-home dinners to pop-ups, school and community meals, as well as also special events. He is a chef who cooks with the soul, blending fine dining techniques with the heart for creating moments people remember. Please welcome the Bearded Chef Kitchen, Brandon Basista. What's going on, Brandon?
Going on? How's everyone doing?
I'm doing well, man. I'm doing well. I'm glad we finally got a chance to connect and chat. I definitely appreciate you taking the time. I always like to ask the question, what's your go-to lunch or sandwich?
Honestly, on me, it just hits everything for me. You get the smoky, salty, chicken-y kind of pork belly. You get the bright pickle, the heat, the nice crisp, but then soft bread, good chew. It's got everything you ever need. Yeah.
What is it about cooking and food that you love?
Honestly, and this is something that's always been true for me, it's a way that I can take care of people. I can meet people where they're at. And when you're eating around people, that's when your defenses are down the most. That's where you can be vulnerable. That's where you can be real. And that's something that I've always loved. Apparently, I'm good at it because I've been doing it for a long time. But it's just one of those that's what drives me. You know, I love the thought of food and like how all the different flavors pair with each other and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, it's really connecting people and making memories and connecting the story of, you know, if it's their grandma's meatloaf that I did a reinterpretation of because I know the flavor profile, and just seeing that little twinkle in their eye where it's like, oh, that was a connection point. That was something that hit. That'll mean so much more to me than let me tweeze this onto a plate that has, you know, whatever. And I can do that and I've done it, but I think that has so much more value for me and from, you know, the people that I service like that. You know, you get one of those things where you get a tear and they'll send you a text a year later like, hey, I just got this pop up on my memories. Thank you so much. And I'm like, that means a lot more to me than, you know, if I got a Michelin star. Don't get me wrong. Michelin, if you're hearing this, I won't fight you on that.
Yeah, exactly. Won't fight you at all. Are there certain things that you eat that do bring you back? Like, are there certain core like memories of when you're like in your love of food that kind of led you into the industry or wanting to cook and stuff like that?
So I remember, like, I guess one of my biggest ones is like making burgers with my dad. That's like a core memory for me. Being like third or fourth grade, him going, all right, climb up in the spice cabinet and grab some stuff and let's season these burgers. And then that turned into I'm making the seasoning by myself and trying different things. And then he shows me how to make buffalo sauce with just butter and Crystal's Louisiana hot sauce. And that turned into me being an entrepreneur in ninth grade selling wings up against my ag department because I happened to work at Winn-Dixie at the time and got wings that I could hawk over at school the next day and make my own hot sauce.
I love that. That's sick. I love that. So just to give folks a little bit of a kind of like, I sometimes like to be able to share like how I actually know the person. And Brendan and I got to meet in a very fun way. We both were part of, well, I got to sit and watch him do all the work. We both met at a filming of a local show that was being done for an app called Very Local, which the beauty of it is now there you can see, you used to be able to see it on the app. Now you can actually see it on YouTube and TikTok. We'll make sure to share it. It's called Blind Kitchen Orlando. And the cool thing about it was like a cool cooking competition where local chefs blindfold taste tested and then attempted to recreate their opponent's signature dish. And it was a blast being able to do it. It was a blast getting to hang out with Brandon on it. That was one of the reasons why I was like, I knew I had to have him on and I wanted to kind of share his story because I just loved his energy and loved the food that he was making. I know it's been a little while, but tell me a little bit about experiences of something like to be able to experience something like that, like a filming of a TV show, getting to show your culinary chops, and at the same time doing something very different where it's like, you know, blindfold testing food.
It is, I would say, definitely a surreal experience because, like, when you're in a kitchen, it's like, all right, go until you don't go anymore. And then, you know, that's typically end of service. And with, you know, shooting, it's go, stop. Hey, let's go reset, go take a break, go, come back. Oh, all right, we got the shot we need. And, you know, it's just like a whole bunch of stop and go. So I'm like, all right, well, what are we doing? Okay, no, sit down, calm down. All right, everything's good. No, all right, we're gonna go cook. We got to go do this game. So it was really fun for me in that way, and just to get back there and to see the way that it works from a production standpoint, because there's so many different moving pieces, and it makes it seem so seamless whenever you watch it, but behind the scenes on that thing is a beast.
Yeah, no, it was super fun to watch, but yes, it was definitely made for a long day. And then like to see you guys make the food, and then I wouldn't be able to eat it, or we had to like because or you had to do it and then make extra food in order to get it like filmed, or like, hey, we need this one for the camera so we can do all the camera shots of it and things like that. It definitely it is definitely very interesting to me. I want to talk about the journey, because I know like originally when we met, you had your food truck, and I know there's like an evolution. Well, and I know before even the food truck, like you've worked on quite a different, different areas. You actually have cooked for the James Beard Foundation. You've done, you've worked at, culinary restaurants, but you've also then did the food truck. Now you're kind of doing more of the private events, catering, pop-ups, and community events. Can you tell me a little bit more about kind of like that evolution, and because it sounds like it's something that you really enjoy doing, and I just kind of wanted to hear a little bit about like that evolution of like that culinary journey you've been to, that now this is kind of where your journey's taken you.
So, I mean, I started off in fine dining restaurants, been doing it since I was 14 years old, got the scars to prove it, had the plates thrown at me because one parsley leaf or one sprig of whatever was out of place. And I always thought, fine dining was Italian and French. So I ended up going to Le Cordon Bleu in Orlando. Everyone knows about Le Cordon Bleu and where they are now. When I graduated was '07, so it was still a pretty decent school. I'm not going to say, but it was one of those situations where for my externship, there was a French and Thai fusion restaurant off of what was it, Dr. Phil's, over by Albertsons over there, and it was called Tang's Thai, and I got to be the sous chef over there. And like I had said, I've been doing this since I was 14. And I was going to culinary school by the time I was 20. So I was over at Tang's Thai, and it was just one of those where I could see French technique of this is, exactly what I'm learning in culinary school and spent the last 18 months learning in depth, with paired with Asian flavor and Asian profile and Asian, you know, I don't know what else, je ne sais quoi. It's just one of those heart behind it, the soul behind it, but with the French technique. And I was like, oh, whoa, this is pretty cool. So I ended up coming back down to Vero, worked at Costa de Este when that first opened up, did Cuban and had fun with that. But then, I got into my own truck eventually. And it was just one of those that my whole goal was to meet people where they're at. I've been doing fine dining my whole life. I know fine dining approach is super easy to do. It's all about care. That's all it is. Do you care about your product? Do you care about what your product is going to do? Do you care about what it's going to do for your customer? And do you care about your customers? That's really what it breaks down to. And I was like, if I do that, I can do this on the truck. Just keep the menu small. 11 items max. Always have these categories that I had, and run it that way. And it was one of those. Every couple months, I would change the menu, keep the format the same, but it was kept it fresh and kept it fun. And being a mobile kitchen, like I could go meet people where they're at. If somebody had a hurricane, I want to say happened one year when I first got it, and I was able to take stuff from my truck and go, all right, I'm parking in a dry area. I can make some food for everybody, and let's get them fed. And it's just one of those situations where I really felt like I was part of the community. You could really get into it, and it wasn't like, hey, yeah, I'm part of the community, but you got to come see me over here, pay for it, and then I might come out and see you eventually, because nobody wants to leave the kitchen. Yeah, 2023. I had already gotten a divorce by that point, and I had stepped away from the day-to-day operations of the business. My ex-wife was running it, and it went under. And so it was just one of those situations where I tried my best to try and make it happen again, try and keep it going. I was told not to do it, so I was like, okay, I did whatever I could.
Yeah.
And then whenever I had to say, we're putting this to bed, literally within a couple weeks, it was one of those like getting, the feeling of, should I do this? Should I not do this? And then I lost my job. And I was like, oh, okay, I guess we're doing this. And so from that point, it feels just like when I opened the truck. I was a baby learning how to walk with a big head. That's the best way I can put it, is just you're falling forward the whole time, wiggle wobble. If I fall, I'm going to fall forward, and that just means I'm making progress. Get back up and keep falling forward. But now, even more so where the truck, there's a lot more cost that goes into that. This, I can get into smaller spots. I can get into your home, and I can make food for you, directly for you, where I'm making your menu that is like, yes, this is what I'm looking for. This is actually my Nona's recipe for meatballs. Cool. I will do it exactly like your Nona did, to the T. If you want me to go and make you a omakase menu, 15 courses, where we're going to spend 5 hours together, I'll do that too, and make whatever happen. But it's the whole thing about community for me is getting to know people, getting to know them where they're at, and then getting that community built together. I think that there's a lot of healing and there's a lot of life that can happen in that.
Yeah. No, man, I totally get that. And that was one of the things I kind of like, since you led and you kind of talked about it, I'm kind of curious on the transition part of it, because I know you've led kitchens, serving everything from Italian, Thai, new American cuisine. And what is the difference cooking in someone's home that's different, that hits different than being in a restaurant? Because that is definitely, it's got to be also interesting as well, being you're going into different people's homes to cook up, and that whole experience, and trying to figure out, do they have what they don't have, what do I need to bring, things like that. Like, so tell me a little bit about that culture change, or that change now going from kitchen to someone's home's kitchen.
So I think I had a really good buffer with the food truck. With the food truck, it was one of those like, for a kitchen, you walk in, you turn on your fryers, you turn on your ovens, you're ready to go in 10 minutes. Just gotta wait for your fryers and ovens to warm up. On the truck, you had to make sure everything was secured. Did you have your propane? Did you change your oil in your generator? Did you check your valve pressure and, recalibrate your valves on your generator? Do you have which propane line is actually connected? Did one fall off? All these things that rattle and jiggle in transit. So I learned really early on with trucks, like if it's a 4-hour event for the truck, I have 8 hours of work minimum. And that's not including the cleanup at the end of the day, because let me double check this tire pressure. Do I have everything bolted down proper? Do I have everything I need? And then some, because I'm not leaving again. I don't have a walk-in to go back to. And so it got me very, very cognizant of these are the things that you need when shit hits the fan. And, I essentially have my kit of here's my toolbox of here's my knives, some small pans, silpats, some silicone spatulas, plating stuff, and my immersion circulator, because I'm like, if I don't have enough oven room, I'm going to make some room somewhere else. But yeah, just little things like that where it's like things that could help, but not everything that you think you might need. And that's you only find that out by trial and error. Have I brought way too much stuff to an event before? 100%. And I'm sitting here like carrying a 100-pound pack of everything, and I only needed a pan because they had everything there, and their knives that were there were sharper than the ones I brought. Not gonna lie to you. And then there's other times where you think that they have everything because they told you they have everything, and you have to be like, oh, you have a wooden cutting board that you have let soak for like 25 years. It's fallen apart, and you want me to, okay, we'll figure this out. We'll make this happen some way or another, But yeah, so with the truck, it gave me that kind of get ready for anything. And we're already like that in the kitchen anyways. You don't know if you're going to have 250 people or, all night, or a 250 person pop at 7 o'clock on Friday night when you're going to get wrecked. It started to rain, or you forgot that there was a show letting out at wherever. Next thing you know, you are fully booked on a slow night, and oh no, get ready for it.
What? So tell people a little bit, because I know that one of the other things that we talked about, that you and I talked before getting on air, was that you're also doing you're helping, not only just doing when it comes to like at home, catering or meals, but you're also doing stuff for at schools. You said, you even mentioned that you're doing some teaching at schools, having to do with food. Tell me a little bit about that, like on that aspect, because that's like that opens up a different avenue for you, and I think what you're doing is really cool with what you're doing for schools and stuff like that. So talk a little bit about that.
I appreciate that. Real quick, shout out Bayside Academy. That's where my oldest son and oldest daughter go. They're a school that do a year-round. It's a micro school, so they do year-round schooling where it's online, proctored, and they have teachers there. And they essentially they're there for people that have like year-round baseball or gymnastics, dance, cheer, all that stuff. And they also focus on year-round schooling for people with autism and sensory processing issues and stuff like that. So actually, the day that I got let go was the day that the lady that runs it, Crystal, Dr. Crystal, was like, "Hey, we have some kids that are, that have come in that haven't had any lunch. Would you be able to maybe make some lunch that we can have and maybe we can give it to them?" And that turned into I was making lunch, breakfast and lunch, all 3 days that they were open for, I think they have up to 50 kids at one campus, and at the other campus, there's like 25. And, coming in, talking to the kids about food and what they like, what they don't like, sensory processing, especially with kids with autism, certain textures are a big deal while still trying to keep it nutritious and not just fun for the sake of fun, trying to take care of the kids. And that turned into the teacher, or both of the ladies that run it, Dr. Crystal and Miss Marla, asking if I would come in and actually cook for the kids in front of them and also teach them about some of this stuff and how it applies to real world. So like, yeah, I might be cooking fried rice or I might be making pizza, but now you're learning about fermentation. You're learning about what, the barometric pressure does to rising dough and what it doesn't do to rising dough, and temperatures and Maillard reactions, all these different things that, we can talk about science, we can talk about ratios and portions and proportions and all that other stuff for weighing. And also it's going to be a tactile thing for those that want to play around with the dough. All right, well, let's start working out the dough. When you start feeling that certain tension in the dough, you're like, okay, I can let it go. Make sure you finish it up, let it sit and do its thing. Come back to it in 30 minutes and we can start stretching it out and go from there. But at the end of the day, my whole goal is like to show these kids cooking isn't scary. It's something that anyone can do because we have to. At the end of the day, like, yeah, there's always DoorDash or Uber Eats or somebody else to do it for you. As you're growing up, if you learn how to do this, you're not scared of it. And when you're not scared of it, you can do a lot of stuff for yourself, which helps take care of your money, which helps take care of your health. And at the end of the day, let's be real, whoever you are who cooks, your significant other a really good meal, they might love you a little bit more for it. I don't know.
Yes. No, I agree with that. I agree with that. And that kind of falls in the idea of like that whole idea of making people feel, seen, taken care of, remembered, kind of like what something that you kind of say, it kind of hits, making them feel that way. So I definitely do agree with that. There is something special about providing a meal for someone and creating a meal for someone. Tell me a little bit, because the world of food truck obviously is like, hey, I'm at a food truck, I'm going to this event, I'm doing this. Tell me a little bit about how some of the marketing, or how you've had to figure out new ways of telling people, of getting in front of new people, because you're kind of opened it in a way where you're like, hey, I could do a pop-up where I can feed a bunch of people, or I'm actually coming to your home. So tell me a little bit about kind of how you've had to figure out, and it's okay. And if you're still trying to figure it out, but like, what have you been trying to figure out of how you actually get the message across to people? Like, hey, I can come because, and we'll talk a little more about the food part of it. And I am curious about how you get the word out to get people to then say, "Ooh, I love this idea. Let's hire them to come to my house to cook, or let's set up a thing at a pop up, with someone in collaboration." Because like you open up so many open doors. How do you get that message out and collect it and then try to make something out of that?
So I'm going to be honest with you. That's one thing I'm still trudging through right now. It's one of those that people would say, "Hey, I would love to have the truck out." I'm like, "Hey, I'm sorry, I don't have the truck, but I can still come out. I can fit, um, in a 10 by 10. I can bring out my flat top, my yakitori grill, my smokers, get my little fryer set up. I can be fully set up with a full kitchen and a 10 by 10 if you'd like me to." They're like, "Oh, I was actually looking for the food truck." I was like, "Okay, nope, no problem. Here's a couple other people that are in the area that might be able to fit your need." And there's other people that when they hear that, they're like, "Oh, I thought you were a food truck. That's even better. I'm actually having a backyard wedding and I don't have room for another food truck to fit in there, so that's perfect." And I actually did a wedding like that a month ago for Megan and Julden, and it was a fantastic, awesome backyard wedding in Titusville. 157 people, I want to say, and it was just one of those. There's no barrier at this point. The person that's cooking your food is now the person that's serving and talking to you. The amount of really interesting interactions and conversations that can be had with that, it's a blast, especially when people start drinking a little bit or getting a little loose. It's like, okay, this is dinner and a movie. Got it.
I love that. And then how are you using, so I know I see you on on Threads. I see you on social. Are you just kind of like doing kind of figuring out like who can I, because obviously word of mouth plays a huge factor in this, reviews, getting people to want to like, tell people about it. Like how's that process been for you?
So I am not a fan of social media. I'm going to be 100% honest with you. It's the last thing that is on my mind, and one of the things that I know I have to do the most of that gives me the most anxiety. But it's one of those that, I'm trying to really pay attention to the analytics. So I'm posting, I have my post schedule on Threads, I have my post schedule on LinkedIn, and really leaning into the voices on those two specifically. And then once I get some more, I guess, pictures and videos and stuff like that of events where I'm allowed to do that, then I'll be able to start posting those and integrating a little bit more Facebook and Instagram into that. But yeah, it's just one of those that I'm trying to, those are my two focuses right now where I'm like, all right, I know I have a lot of wisdom and I've been doing this for a long time and my heart is helping raise the next generation. So I can use LinkedIn in that way. And then with my threads, it was just a random, let me shoot this out and try this out as whatever this thing is, because I still have no idea. And it just happened to go well. And just asking people questions on what they like and what are their preferences with food has gotten a lot of response. So people like to talk about themselves to somebody that, has somewhat of a no, or
Yeah.
at least fakes it.
No, and I think, and it's one of those where you obviously figure out where it works and where it hits, and that's why I was like, I always like to ask people like, hey, because like you're in a place where you have like so many options, and it's like what has been working, what does work, or what can I do, and it's also such a hard thing because again, you're doing it all, and
Hmm.
it's hard. Like I know because like when you were saying like, oh, I should do more video with this and that, I was like, you should be doing video when you like just like I don't know as you're prepping for an event, just like record yourself on like the thing and just show people like, because I think people just don't, there's a certain aspect to it that I think people forget of all the work that's involved. It's not like you just show up and be like, okay, I'm ready to cook. I'm like, I didn't prep all
Yay!
these things. You know what I mean? Like, so, and I think, and that's the hardest part because for me, it's also the same thing where I'm like, I don't want to, I don't want to set up a tripod while I'm packing orders or doing something. I'm like, I have work to do. I'm like, it's like, so it is such a microcosm of like trying to balance of what it should be and what it shouldn't be. So I'm always intrigued by how people try to pull that. One thing that you posted, which is kind of where it is, because I do enjoy seeing your threads and and kind of like I feel like you get very philosophical and you get to like kind of like shoot out what your thoughts are and stuff like that. And I was like, man, I'm like, he must be like dropping these, like just putting it in notes section and then just dropping it in when he goes. But one thing that you posted that I wanted to know more about it because I had not seen it before, you do Airbnb experiences is what you started.
Yes.
So talk a little bit about that because I thought it was I was like, man, what a smart idea this is. I had not seen it before. I apologize if others have heard it. I don't care if you haven't, you're going to hear it now, but tell people a little bit about what the Airbnb experiences are and then also tell me like what you're offering so if someone's interested, they can maybe want to be able to partake and do it.
Gotcha. So me and my wife were talking one day about like how do we get into where people see us and marketing and stuff like that, and we started talking about B&Bs and wouldn't it be cool if we could do Airbnb because we had stayed at a place in Tampa that was themed and we didn't know it was a theme, but it was like a Jumanji themed spot, and the guy he owns four of them and all four of them are different themes. He does all the art and 3D printing for it, and it was really cool. And I was like, dude, if you ever want to do a themed dinner, I will go to each one of these and do a Harry Potter theme over here, no problem. Do a Jumanji theme over here, no problem. And he's like, yeah, we got to figure out a way to do that. And then a year later, as we're starting to talk about this again, I reach out to my friend Justin Medina, and he's like, hey, that's a thing now. You know that, right? I was like, what? He's like, yeah, I've been doing it for Airbnb for such and such amount of time. I was like, like Bruce Almighty just going crazy. Let's get this going. And it's one of those where you can book your Airbnb and then you can search experiences in the area. And for me, obviously, I'm a chef, so you can have me come either drop off some food for you as like a hey, I got some hot food. You don't want to, you just got in, or whatever the case is, you want to eat later. Here's some food I can drop off to you guys, custom made menu. That you have where I can come in and cook you like a nice little 3 course. Here's something, it's not too crazy. And then you can have, I'm coming in and cooking 5 to whatever you want to do course. And that one's a little bit more expensive. And just depending on menu and what you're looking for, obviously that determines the price. A lot of people ask, like, well, do you have a sample menu? I'm like, yeah, I do. But the whole goal is to meet you where you're at, not where Joe Schmo was over here. That, and I would like to know what you're looking for. What is in your heart that you want to have for this event, whether it's an anniversary. We had this one parfait from yada yada yada, and it's like, okay, well, let me look it up and do some research, try and figure it out. Tell me what it did for you. What do you remember how it went, and then just try and recreate that in the best way that I can. Again, like that's my heart. And where I was getting it with the truck, where I felt like, all right, I'm getting to meet people where they're at, coming to their neighborhoods or coming to the hospital to cook for people during COVID, and dropping off food for them. Like, that was really awesome. That meant a lot to me, and it meant a lot to other people. But now I get to do it in a personal way where I might remember people's faces and might remember names, but now I'm actually doing it to where I know your story, and I'm helping just give you a little, here's a cliff note on this part of the story right now with this meal.
Yeah. No, man, that is such a cool idea. Now, and obviously that's what I loved. And when I was reading it, and I went in and I looked at it, and I was like, man, what a smart idea of the especially like the fact that you have like the 3 different options. But I love the idea of like, oh, you know what? I'm like, yeah, when you do a long trip, you just want like a home cooked meal, because you've been eating. If it's a long trip, you've been eating fast food the whole time. You just want something good to eat.
Mm-hmm.
And like, what better way to have it, like food already waiting for you there to be able to do. I was like, man, what a cool idea. Now, do you mostly just do it in Brevard, or do you do it like, are you like, what's your circle, what's the circle there of that?
So actually, as of Friday, I have a drop in West Kissimmee, like west of I-4. Sunday, I'm back in Celebration, doing a women's retreat, and then I have one in Daytona Shores, right on the beach. May 1st, May 6th, I have a couple of realtors' offices I have drop-offs for, and then another school that I'm doing a teacher appreciation where I'm coming out and making some fried rice and burgers for them. 110 people for that, and I'm just like, all right, cool, yeah, dude. I'll come out and cook for you. Thank you for teaching kids.
That's awesome, man. I love hearing this. I think, has it given you, like, are there certain aspects of it that you're like, man, I'm like, why didn't I do this sooner? Or, or is it kind of like, I'm still trying to figure it out, but I think I definitely think I'm on the right course, because that's what it sounds like.
It feels like both. Like, why didn't I do this before? Like, come on, why was I dragging my feet? And this is right time, right everything. It's like catching lightning in a bottle. Like I said, it's that baby with a big head learning how to walk. You're not walking, you're kind of trotting and doing one of these things, but it's good because I'm learning. And if I stop learning, I stop growing, and that's never a good thing.
No, I totally get that. I totally get that. I love to ask my guests to manifest things now into the universe. So I kind of want from you to kind of tell me a little bit about what you want to manifest for yourself and for the Bearded Chef Kitchen.
That's a good one. I guess for the Bearded Chef Kitchen, that I would be able to meet who I'm supposed to meet in the way I'm supposed to meet them. I don't want to force anything that's not supposed to work. So if it's supposed to work, let it work. And if it's not supposed to work, let it slide. And I'm trying to live my life like that, where it's like, all right, well, it just didn't line up this time. Okay. If it comes back around, we'll circle back to it. It's okay. We don't have to worry about every single thing. And I guess that's, for me personally, it's I would like to manifest that calm stillness. I think a lot of us in the kitchen don't know what that's like. And I don't know if you can tell, but my legs have been going a mile a minute since I sat down because I don't know how to sit. But yeah, it's just one of those that I think that a lot of us are so used to going, giving it all, and then giving some more, and then picking yourself up to give some more when you don't have it. And I know for myself, I forget that calm stillness a lot of times. And that's probably why I get a little bit more philosophical on Threads.
I love it, man. I think it's so great. It's so great to be able for you to be able to have those moments, the stillness, the silence, as much as crazy as it is to be able to have those. I think it's amazing what your mind will start telling you, or just the universe will start telling you when you do take that moment to kind of touch grass and kind of just take a moment to breathe in and take it in. So I think that's awesome. What advice do you have for someone wanting to start something?
Do it. Honestly, don't wait for this, don't wait for that. If you have the notion and you have the availability, even if you barely have the availability or hardly have the availability, bet on yourself. Because at the end of the day, no one else is going to do it right now. And if you have the fire in your heart and in your belly to get something going, do it now, because tomorrow you're not promised. And that's it. I would hate for anyone to look back on their life and be like, "Oh man, I wish I could do that." Like living with that kind of regret. You owe it to yourself to give it a shot. You know.
I 100% agree with that. I think it's 100% agree with that. Where can people follow you? Where can they support if they want to do a private event, at home dinner and elevated catering? Where can they find all that information and details? Or if they're even going on an Airbnb and they're coming into town, or heck, I'm assuming even if they don't even go, they're not even doing Airbnb, they can just reach out to you for private food. Tell people a little bit how they can do all that.
So I have the beardchefkitchen.com. That's my main website. That can take you in for a private chef side, catering side. If you want to talk about weddings, all that stuff, there's a place where you can book appointments for quotes, anything like that. There's a whole bunch of questions. There's some pictures and videos from behind the scenes of the episode that I shot with Biggie. And yeah, that's my main one. Obviously, Instagram, Facebook, Threads, and LinkedIn are all the Bearded Chef Kitchen. And then what else? Why Hangry? I'm active on Why Hangry. I'm also active on Airbnb. If you want
What's
to look me
Why
up on
Hangry?
Why Hangry is another private chef service that, yeah. So there's come to find out there's hundreds and hundreds of thousands of these things where it's like, all right, well, some of these, like I signed into a couple of them and I'm like, all right, let me see what's going on. And people are like, $5 for feeding 30 people in China. I'm like, what? You want me to travel to China for $5 and feed 30? What? How are we doing this? This has got to be a trap. So, Why Hangry and Airbnb have been the ones that are consistent as far as thus far. Airbnb, like I said, my first day on, I got 5 inquiries and 3 books off of the first day, and I was like, okay, I guess this is it.
This works. This works. I'm very happy for you. I love the fact that you're doing this and what it is. I'm just very excited for you because I know obviously I've been dying to have the opportunity to chat with you, to talk food and what you're up to. So I'm super glad that we finally got to do this, Brandon. Your food is delicious. So I definitely need to figure out a way to be able to enjoy more of your food now that I know that you're out and about. But I definitely wanted to make sure to have you on so people could hear your story, but also if they're hungry and they want to try to get some food and they don't want to cook, because I love the idea that you actually clean up as well. Like
Oh,
it's
yeah.
one of the big things I like is that you also clean up, because that is like I do a lot of cooking in my house and we have to battle on who does the cleanup, even though my wife does a good job. But sometimes, I end up being me as well. And I don't find that to be fun at all.
Yeah, I tried to convince my wife. I was like, "Hey, if I just go cook for them," she's like, "You got to clean too." I was like, "But I don't want to."
I was
I did the cooking, but she's like, "Nope, you got to do it." So I was like, "All right, I'll do the whole thing, whole spectrum. Let's do this thing." And also, I forgot, I've also been working with a bunch of local realtors as kind of working with them on a gift card for people that just move into their first time home, where here's a instead of giving them wine or here's some chocolates or whatever the case is, here's a gift card for a private dinner from Brandon the Bearded Chef, and where I would come in and do like a welcome home dinner where if they want the welcome home, I'll have the food ready for them in their home. Here it is, drop off, you guys have it, take care of it, have fun moving into your home. At least you don't have to try and figure out cooking dinner tonight.
Yeah, exactly.
All the way up to like, hey, we just moved in a couple days later. I would love to have a big dinner. And I'll come in and do, like I said, anywhere from 3, 10, 100 courses, just as long as there's enough time in the day.
Yeah. No, I mean, that is an awesome outlet to be able to do. I've never even thought of that realtors can actually use this as a service for their clients and then get a meal. I mean, because it's true, the moving day is horrible to be able to do, or the excitement of getting to eat your first meal and you then, I mean, no offense to pizza, but to be able to have the first meal at your home and it's a delicious meal, or your first day when you finally moved in and everything's already ready to go. And heck, even the option of, instead of doing Uber Eats, going and using you to be able to be like, hey, my friend just had a baby, or someone just had surgery and I don't want them to have to cook. I'll just have Brandon cook some food for him and drop it off for him.
I honestly, you just gave me an idea because I used to have a board at my restaurant that was called the pay it forward board. And people could, here's $10, and whoever meant this, whatever they wanted, one guy, if they had a ginger beard and he came in and had a ginger beard, I can give him, a free meal essentially. But I never thought about that because I've always done that with my friends. Like, hey, you just had a baby. Let me come bring you something.
Yeah.
You,
That is
sir.
something. That is something there because I was thinking about it when you said it, and I was like, man, that opens up another door because, like, to be able to even have even just like the fact of a home cooked meal, it doesn't have to be, and like you said, like it could be something as simple, but because it's going to be delicious because it's made with love, but it's made with it's crafted, but even just like a simple meal to be like, hey, I know you can't, you're busy and life is crazy and or you just had a baby and you just don't, you're tired of whatever. Here's a quick meal, that I'm bringing that I can make and drop off. All you have to do is reheat it and or eat it and enjoy, and that's it.
Yeah. And again, it's when you meet people where they're at and help them when they need it the most, that's what means the most to everybody, right? And I'm not trying to be like, "Oh, let me sweep in and,
Yeah.
steal their dough." But it's
Yeah.
one of those like if I can ease that moment because moving sucks. Having a baby is a glorious, glorious thing, but you also don't have a brain for half the time afterwards. So if it takes more off of that, then that's one less thing you got to
Yeah.
worry about. You're not
Yeah.
feeling well. Again, you can't get out. I would love to come over there and be able to take care of you. But I love that. Thank you.
No, you're welcome, man. That's why I love having these conversations. Brandon, thank you so much for being on the show today. Thank you for being on, and I really appreciate it. And, and you having lunch with me. Definitely make sure to give him a follow. Make sure to check him out on Threads, LinkedIn. You'll see all the social aspects of how you could follow him, how you can reach out to him to possibly use him for catering or for a private event, or just heck, I'm hungry and I need you to make me food. We'll put all that in the show notes for you to be able to follow. Definitely, if you enjoyed the show, make sure to subscribe. Make sure to tell your friends.
Oh yeah.
If you want to support my brand, check out Deli Fresh Threads. But thank you until next time. Keep eating sandwiches and follow your passion. Thanks, everyone.